One of the more entertaining objections that Nietzsche had against Christianity was that Plato had heavily influenced the Apostle Paul. In this video, we'll take a look at that objection. Hello and greetings from Northeast Tennessee. Welcome to the Monty Collier Report. I'm Monty Collier. If you'd like to get a copy of my free theological journal, then you can contact me at the email address that you see at the beginning of this video, and I'll send one out to you free of charge. The philosophy of religion has many interesting subjects for the student to examine. Sometimes we hear an interesting accusation against Christianity from those opposed to the Bible. The charge is that Christianity in general, and the Apostle Paul in particular, was greatly influenced by and drew heavily upon the teachings of Plato. Some accusers will also point to Aurelius Augustine, who was fond of Neoplatonism in his early life. At any rate, among the shallow accusations voiced by those antagonists of the New Testament, there are the claims of Friedrich Nietzsche, who wrote the following, and I quote, "Plato is tiresome. In the end, my distrust of Plato goes deeper than the surface. I find him strayed so far from all fundamental instincts of the Hellenes, so mismoralized, so pre-existently Christian, he is already the concept, good, as the highest concept, that I should prefer to employ the hard expression, superior cheatery, with the reference to the whole phenomenon of Plato, or, if people like it better, idealism, rather than any other term. People have paid dearly for this Athenians going to school with the Egyptians, or with the Jews in Egypt. In the great fatality of Christianity, Plato is the ambiguity and fascination called the ideal, which made it possible for the nobler minds of antiquity to misunderstand themselves and enter on the bridge which led to the cross. And how much of Plato is still in the conception of the church, in the organization, system, and practice of the church?" End quote. Twilight of the Idols, My Indebtedness to the Ancients, Section 2, page 71. If some of the teachings of Plato are similar to some of the teachings of Christianity, then this does not imply that the teachings of Plato caused or influenced the teachings of Christianity. To make such an assertion would be logically ridiculous. Now, Plato lived before the Apostle Paul, but this does not mean that Plato influenced or originated some of Paul's teachings in the New Testament. It may be that some rooster crows every day before the sun rises, but this does not imply that the crowing of the rooster causes the sun to rise. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus and the Gospel of John both speak of something called the Logos, yet an examination of each person's doctrine reveals that they are not speaking about the same thing. The term Logos, like most words, has several different meanings. The term is equivocal. All students of philosophy, theology, history, and so on need to remember the definition of equivocation. In Gordon H. Clark's book titled Logic, we read this definition, quote, "A word susceptible of more than one meaning," end quote. Logic, page 128. Calvinist John W. Robbins would often explain how words must be defined according to the system in which they appeared. This is an important truth. For example, Roman Catholicism and the Bible both speak of Jesus Christ. However, the Bible teaches that what Jesus Christ did on earth for his people was sufficient and is the only basis for their justification before God, while Catholicism teaches that what Jesus Christ did on earth was not sufficient and was not the only basis of salvation for his people. Catholicism requires its members to complete their justification before God by doing good works. Clearly, the Christ of the Bible is not the same Christ of Roman Catholicism. Finally, from time to time you will read or hear some philosopher speculate about the possibility of Plato having read the Old Testament or having been taught Hebrew theology in Egypt. But how this is supposed to be an attack against Christianity, I cannot say. Nevertheless, a comparative study of the teachings of the Bible with those of Plato's Republic is not a waste of time, for Bible study is never a waste of time.